It's crazy. Chris was born in Philadelphia. Emily was born 3,000 miles away in San Diego. You couldn't be further apart, yet they met and they're getting married. It's really funny how love works. No matter where you start off in life, you just end up meeting the one.
Yeah, fate is part of life, and yeah, it's hard to prove it, you know, but it's manifested itself so many places, so many times, and personal experience tells me that it's real.
Fate, I believe in fate, and you can't escape it. No matter where you are, if it's meant, whatever it's meant to be, it's going to be.
Fate is really, I think, a determining factor of many things that happen to people. It's the mother of all happenings.
An anonymous writer once said, "If two hearts are meant to be, no matter how long it takes, how far they go, fate will bring them back together." It's hard to escape this notion when I think of Chris and Emily starting apart, unknowingly landing at the same school as kids, only to meet years later in New York. Have doubts? Look no further than their only shared yearbook. Chris's photo on the bottom, 4 from the left. Emily's in the exact same spot, just 8 pages away. So, like any other story, I'll tell you Chris's from the beginning, and hopefully uncover how the world orchestrated him finally meeting Emily.
He was born in Philadelphia, and Casey and the doctor were sitting down chatting all the way, and here I was going through the pain.
I was there, I was right there when he came out of his mom, and the nurse picked him up and lifted him up, and I saw this giant baby in front of me. And I thought to myself, oh my God, he's going to be like his great-grandfather, whose name was Makri Nicholas, which means tall Nicholas.
Christopher, as a newborn, was cute. He was a big baby. He was a big baby.
He was a very big baby.
But he loved to eat. Extremely charming from a baby. Very playful with his eyes. And the doctor told us he had jaundice. And then my sister, she said, that's it, we're going to put him by the window and facing the sun on him, and that would help him. And actually did. And then he, of course, he was crying. He was a colicky baby. For a few months, he was fine after that. He was okay. The jaundice went, the crying went, and he became the happiest son of the lot.
Yeah, well, I think everything sort of fades out until he became conscious of his world. When Chris discovered his world, he was all over the place. He was the king. He owned the world from a very young age. There's no doubt about it. His leadership qualities, his intelligence, his charm.
As a toddler, he was a handful when we lived on Paddock Road in Philadelphia.
He was such a beautiful, blonde little kid that, you know, you thought he's a movie star in the making.
To this day, my parents always remember Chris as being such a little angel when he was a kid. But I remember him being such a rascal and always doing some mischievous things.
He loved to be naked and visit our neighbors without any clothes. And they used to call me and say, Chris has no clothes on. So then I realized that, you know what, that's the way Chris is, and that's he's going to be the biggest charmer around.
So we've heard what Chris was like as a baby, but that still doesn't get us any closer to understanding how he grew up to be the man we know today. Surely there has to be some anecdote of his childhood that captures the true essence of Chris Nicolau.
You're a troublemaker.
When we used to go to department stores, we would go to the dressing room and I would want to try something on. And he would bend down.
The half of his body was inside the dresser, and the half of his body was taken out.
He was looking underneath at the other.
Your mom caught him looking under the dressing rooms of the girls, actually.
And I said, Christopher, what are you doing?
And he had a quick answer. That was the amazing thing. He says, I'm picking pins, ma'am. Chris at his best.
So this is where Chris went to preschool. I got to get to the bottom of these crazy allegations. Let me go inside and see what I can find out. I got his file. Oh my God.
Chris in preschool was a very flirtatious gentleman. Yeah, he liked girls.
Chris liked girls?
Yes.
Okay. Did girls like Chris?
Oh my goodness, yes. He was a ladies' guy. Can I say that? No? No, I shouldn't say that. I had a box of jewelry that was just fake jewelry, and he was looking. I said, what are you looking? And he said, Mommy, I want one of your rings. So I said, what do you want it for? He said, I want to play with it. So I thought, okay, take this one. The next day, and the teachers were saying to me, they would say, you know, Georgia, we had a party today. We had an engagement party today because Christopher has proposed to one of the girls in his classroom. And they thought it was the sweetest thing because it came all wrapped up, and he did that all by himself.
We ended up moving to San Diego in 1989. Chris was 7, and he ended up graduating high school from La Jolla Country Day. But how did he get from San Diego back to Philadelphia?
Chris was an athlete. Chris was born an athlete. I remember getting a phone call after the very first track meet Chris ever competed in during his freshman year of high school. And he had just broken all these school records, including the 400-meter dash and the long jump. And the more I got to thinking about it, I realized that just a year ago, my brother Alex had set those records at Country Day during his senior year of high school. And meanwhile, 6 months later, Chris goes in as a freshman and just demolishes every record ever set.
Towards the end of his high school, you know, Chris was a great football player. I mean, he was a big success. He was on television every week. He was a superstar for his age bracket.
Nobody could catch him. Nobody could beat him. He was on TV. He was in the local newspapers. They wanted pictures of him.
He was a great athlete. He really was.
In high school, it's really when we got to know how talented he was and what a superstar he was on the field.
Okay, I think you get it. Chris was a great athlete. But you can't just be a great athlete to get into the University of Pennsylvania, right? What about those grades?
Yeah, high school years for Chris. I don't remember Chris ever opening a book.
I do remember him getting tutored by the lady who wrote the textbook for SATs for Dummies, and she would come to the house and basically just spend the hour laughing and smiling at Chris. Apparently he did pretty well on that exam, but that's really the only time I remember him opening up a book.
He did fine. He didn't have to do very much. I mean, he's my son, of course, and I'm very proud of,
So just as an insurance, I bought him a dozen goats in Cyprus, and I had them ready for him there, just in case. He would just always, have something as a profession. You have a happy life.
We were very happy he made it to Penn. I was just happy that he was going to go back there, will be my number 3 at Penn. So it's the 3 Musketeers, we're going to finish from the same school.
So Chris finally made his way back to Philadelphia for college, but we weren't there to keep him on the straight and narrow. So I thought I'd do a little bit of digging to see exactly how he spent those formidable years at school.
I met Chris in freshman year of college. I was walking out of football camp, and he was totally lost in the stadium, and he turned around and asked me how to get out of the stadium. So that's the first time I met Chris. In our fraternity, Chris was the predominant one to figure out how to do the least amount of work and get the best grades. Figured out a system where he can have classes basically 2 days a week and just be the social butterfly of the fraternity the rest of the week.
But then I got the feeling that his main occupation was drinking and partying and networking, as it's called now in business schools. He was a master of making friends. He was a warm friend. He was loved as a friend, no question about it. A drinking mate. All these were Christopher's priorities and Christopher's talents. And he takes it very seriously, by the way. He works very hard also. I knew Chris was destined for success because he had the personality, he had the charm, he had leadership. It comes natural to him. You know, people like him.
Chris ended up graduating from the University of Pennsylvania in May of 2003. But where would a smart, popular, handsome young man with an Ivy League education possibly fit in after school? So Chris finally made it to New York. We know Emily moved here in 2010. She was living in the West Village, and Chris was living in this apartment here in Little Italy. But we still have no idea how they met.
Chris and Emily meeting. I'm happy to say that I helped start that party. It was at DeSantos in West Village. October 2010. It was a good fall night. Everyone was having a good time. Chris was being himself. You know, he's putting the vibe out. And Emily was digging his chili.
What I remember most is that he called me one day after he went to party the day before, that he met this nice girl she was cute and sweet and polite, and that he says, "Mom, I'm going to try and get to see her again."
The first date was actually a group date that Jason Charo helped facilitate.
There are many versions of this story, so I hear, but I have the real one. And what happened is, I knew the Walker family from way back in the day, and I hadn't really seen them in a long time, but Emily showed up at Google and ended up sitting at the desk next to me because Chris is a strapping young man and Emily a beautiful young lady. We decided it was a good idea to introduce them, and there was a bunch of people that met up at Dos Caminos in New York, and they met there and hit it off. I think that was the initial introduction, which I'm responsible for, so you're welcome.
The first time I remember Chris mentioning Emily, he called me on the phone and he had this excitement in his voice. And he told me he had met this girl who went to the same high school that I did and was from La Jolla. My first question was, is she a sweetheart? That's really what every sister wants for their brother. And he said, super sweet, she's a great girl. Then I said, if we were bishops at the same time, would we have been friends? And he said, absolutely not. I said, why not? And he said, Colette, because she's cool. Really, Chris? Really? Thanks.
He mentioned Google, and then immediately I jumped and I thought, my gosh, she must be a very intelligent young lady to work for Google. And I baptized her from that moment as the Google girl.
It was very evident to everybody that when Chris and Emily met, it was something special, which myself, along with everyone, was excited about.
So we know how Chris and Emily finally met, but what about that first kiss? Well, rumor has it that it took place here at Washington Square, where a couple of ex-R&B singers decided to capture the moment by serenading them with one of their favorite songs.
So kiss a little longer, stay close a little longer, hold tight a little longer, longer with Big Red.
There is something so special about Chris and Emily as a couple. You can see it from the way they look at each other from across the room and you know they're communicating. You can see it from the way they hold hands just for a moment. You can tell just by the way they talk to each other and interact with each other, and by the way they giggle at such sweet moments.
I think they match perfectly well. They're meant for each other. They complement each other.
I look at him in his eyes and I see so much happiness and contentment. And when I hear him say that he is found his partner, that makes me even more happy.
You don't really need much advice from me or anybody else, because I know you were brought up, both of you, in wonderful families, and my only wish and conviction is that you will convey to your children the same values that you were brought up with.
What do you want to say, Nicholas?
I love you, Uncle Chris. I love you, Auntie Emily. I love you.
I want to say congratulations, and I am so happy that you found each other. May God bless you and always be with you. And I love you guys so much.
Christopher and Emily, I would like to congratulate you for finding each other and exhibiting such a warm and wonderful love for each other. I love you both, and I wish you the very, very best in life.
So I want to wish both of you just a lifetime of love and happiness. And I thank you for bringing joy to our family, and how thankful I am that you found each other, and I know you will be happy for years to come. I know that today is only the beginning of the true love and happiness that's coming. Every day you will love each other more and more. Even though you probably don't think that's possible, you will love each other more and more every day.
So there you have it. Chris was born in Philadelphia because he needed something to draw him back to Penn in order to get the education he needed to get to New York. But he had to stop in San Diego first to meet the people who would eventually introduce him to his future bride, Emily. Do I actually believe in all that fate? I have no idea. But I do believe in true love, and I believe that you, Chris and Emily, not only fall in the category of true love, but you also define it. So while I've enjoyed telling you Chris's journey up until now, your journey together has only just begun. So to Emily, I want to thank you for bringing so much love and happiness into my brother's life, and I want to welcome you and your family into ours. And to Chris, you should feel like the luckiest man in the world today, but I want you to know that since you were born, I've been the lucky one to have such a wonderful, amazing, supportive brother like you. I love you guys very, very much, and I congratulate you on your special day.
To make you feel my